Masamune is a narcissistic wannabe prince who used to be an ugly fatso and got ruthlessly rejected by the girl he liked. After working out and losing all the fat, he enrolls in a high school where he comes across his childhood crush named Aki, who has grown up to be a spoiled daddy's princess. He decides to take revenge on her by making her go through same humiliation as he did. However, before any of this, Masamune walks to his room after taking a shower and flexes his manly gains in front of his mirror. His sister Chinatsu witnesses this atrocity and calls him a narcissist, so he tries justifying himself that he is just trying to set a good example for himself. She offers him chips, but he ignores it and scolds her for coming into his room without permission. He thinks to himself that he will never turn back into his naive, pathetic self ever again. Later at breakfast, he avoids eating all the oily food made by his mother since it's full of calories and walks off to his school. His mother feels upset that Masamune didn't eat anything even though she worked hard, and she whines to Chinatsu that he must hate her. On the way, he gawks at the tennis girls like a creep, but the girls scold another guy for leering at them instead. He tries to smoothly move away from the scene before he gets caught, but the girls stop him and invite him to join tennis. They fangirl over him and he rejects them smoothly, which makes them fangirl over him while he thinks about how appearances matter a lot. Soon he arrives at the school where a crowd is gathered around a popular guy Shigeo, and he watches as a girl walks to the roof's edge, after which Shigeo confesses publicly to the popular cruel Princess Aki. She uses a mic to give him an answer and firstly thanks him for the confession. She then reveals that she had one of her servants run a background check on him, which revealed that he often buys weird anime manga after school and even writes creepy fanfic where he names the character after himself. The students move away from him and then proceeds to give him a nickname Molio based off of his hairy mole which is on his chest. Molio officially gets rejected while Masamune tells himself that he cannot lose his motivation over such an incident. In the past, Masamune confesses to a girl, but she calls him a pig's foot and rejects him ruthlessly. He then wakes up in his class where the class representative Futaba chit-chats with him, and another classmate Kojira even gives him free food. He thinks that hot guys like him can get away with sleeping in the class, and Kojira compliments him for being so humble despite having such good grades. He and Futaba think that Masamune is amazing just like Aki, and just then the cruel Princess Aki strolls inside. She asks Masamune about a guy called Akio, and one of Masamune's classmates tells her that he is Akio. She reads out the love letter that he wrote for her complimenting her good looks, after which she concludes that he must really like her legs in hot yoga pants. She names him the Pudding Prince and tears apart his love letter, thus rejecting him ruthlessly for confessing to her before walking away. Kojira explains to Masamune that Adagaki Aki is the cruel princess who has the best grades and hottest looks in the school, but her personality is really rotten since she rejects everyone by giving them rude titles. Masamune rushes out to look at her and he suddenly feels happy to find her so soon. Later, Aki spends tea time with her friends and one of her friends offers her chocolate that she got from Brussels. Masamune keeps an eye on her as he thinks about how Aki is famous among girls, and Kojira tells him that the girls like her blunt style. He also reveals that a girl named Yoshino is always with Aki and Masamune, then asks him about her likes and dislikes. He reveals that she likes to eat her lunch alone, and just then, she bids goodbye to her friends as she heads out to eat lunch on her own. She even parts with Yoshino at one point, and Masamune starts to follow her, but he loses track of her. He looks for her everywhere but doesn't find her anywhere, and suddenly he sees Aki's close friend Yoshino rushing somewhere. He follows her instead, and he notices that Yoshino is looking out a lot as she rushes inside a gym storage room. He thinks that something is definitely sus, and meanwhile Yoshino meets up with Aki and gives her lunch to eat. He sees a spider near him, so he rushes inside while screaming only to get exposed. He instantly excuses himself and tries to justify his arrival while Aki thinks that he came after her. He notices that she has a very high-calories lunchbox in her hand, and she then tells him to get lost, so he assures her that a lot of girls from athletic clubs eat big lunches like her. He notices a bunch of other lunchboxes stacked behind her, which silences him, and her stomach starts to grumble. She explains that she has to eat a lot like a cow since eating normal makes her feel hungry again. She gives him a bunch of excuses that her sugar gets low if she doesn't eat a lot, and that she has even gotten a bunch of tests done. He starts to leave, so she threatens him not to tell anyone about her condition or else he will live to regret it. Soon Masamune starts to hang out with her a lot, even though she keeps giving him the cold shoulder, and one time Kojira points out that the rumors have started to spread that Aki may fall for someone after all. He notices her taking her class, and Kojira accidentally throws the ball at his head, which makes the girls in his class worry about him. They ask him whether he wants to go to the nurse's office, and one of his guy classmates whispers at him that he shouldn't get too full of himself. After school, Aki bids farewell to her group of minions, after which she orders Yoshino to buy her food. Yoshino rushes away to buy something while Aki thinks about how her metabolism has been increasing even more than before. She then comes across Akio, whom she had rejected before, and he calls her a hypocrite for getting close to a hot guy like Masamune. He then grabs her hair and keeps taunting her about being with Masamune. He rushes at her to cut her hair, but Masamune comes in between them and stops the attack with his hand. Akio runs away like a fat pig and Masamune plays it cool as he tells Aki that his injuries do not matter as long as she is safe. His hand hurts a lot, but he simply tells her to not worry about him and that she should smile instead. In the past, Masamune is a rich kid who gets bullied for being a snobby fatso kid, but Aki saves him. He then confesses to her, but she rejects him ruthlessly, saying she could never fall in love with a pig's foot like him. In the present, he decides to take revenge on her by making her fall in love instead, and he thinks about how he will dump her the same way she dumped him. The next day, he meets up with Aoki and makes amends with him. He then finds a letter in his locker which calls him a pig's foot, making him think that he's been discovered. Masamune wonders who sent him the letter, and he thinks that Aki must not be the sender, or else she definitely would have exposed him in front of the whole school. Kojiro asks him what he is thinking about, and he wonders whether Kojiro is the main culprit. Some of his classmates discuss their lunch, which includes pig's foot, and he immediately starts assuming the worst as he thinks that people will start bullying him again if they discover his fatso past. He thinks that the girls are all over him, but if they discover his past, the girls will stay away from him while the guys will just order him around. His teacher calls him out to read a paragraph, but he discovers that Masamune is crying and he covers it up by saying that the book made him tear up. During lunchtime, he thinks that he won't be able to take revenge on Aki if his past gets discovered, and all his years of hard work will be wasted, so he needs to find the sender quickly. A horde of hungry students push each other to buy lunch, and he notices that Yoshino is trying to get between them. She whines about not being able to buy her lunch and hands Masamune a chit which indicates her lunch order. He buys lunch for her somehow and she calls him his savior. She then counts down all the lunch items and starts to head away, but Masamune asks to go with her since he knows that the lunch is actually for Aki. She tries to run away on hearing this, so he pushes her against the wall and starts teasing her. He assures her that he won't get her into trouble, and they both head to Aki's storage room. Masamune thinks that Yoshino is just like Cinderella, who keeps getting bullied by her stepmother Aki, and that he can relate to her as a former bullied fatso. They arrive at the storage room where Yoshino hands Aki the lunch and she scolds her for being late. Yoshino rushes out to get her tea, which leads Masamune to enter the scene smoothly and greet Aki. He notices that she has eaten a lot of lunch boxes already, and she asks him about his injured hand, which boosts his ego even more. He downplays his injury in front of her while he thinks about how Aki is definitely not the sender of the letter based on her behavior. Yoshino then enters the room but suddenly trips and somehow exposes her talents once again. Aki pokes Masamune to stop him from looking, and Yoshino then gives him juice to drink. She tells him that Yoshino is respectful towards everyone and even scolds Yoshino for not having a backbone. Masamune then gets up and smoothly tells her to rely on him more than she relies on Yoshino. He heads out after dropping such a smooth simp bomb, thinking that his plan to lure the ice princess may be working after all, while Aki feels frustrated about him. He recalls how he had to read Shinatsu's shoujo mangas to get a hang of such smooth lame lines, and that his plan may work after all. Later, when he's walking home, he devises his next plan to get Aki's email next, and he thinks that he cannot ever fail, but just then he somehow falls in a trap which pulls him up and makes him hang from the tree. Yoshino comes out and calls him by his childhood name Pig's Foot. She asks him whether he is trying to get back at Aki, and he wonders why she knows about him since he cannot recall her. He then distinctly remembers that Yoshino was actually at Aki's mansion when they were children, and she cuts the rope that's holding him, making him fall on the ground. She tells him that her family has been serving Aki's family for generations, making him think that Yoshino is not some Cinderella, but rather she is only serving her master. He thinks that his plan has been exposed, so he declares that he only wants to give Aki a taste of her own medicine, and she comments that she'll help him in his plan to get revenge on Aki. The next day, the girls flock around Aki while Masamune thinks that he cannot trust Yoshino fully and that he will take revenge on his own without relying on her. He decides to get Aki's email address first to advance his plan, and he comes across Futaba carrying some documents, so he carries them on her behalf. They both head to class together, and he tries asking for Futaba's email as a practice, but at the last moment he realizes that he is a loser who cannot even get a girl's email address, due to which he runs away in panic. He thinks that girls will be able to figure out that he is a loner if he asks them for their email address, and Kojiro assures him that it's not the case. A guy comes to ask Futaba that they need an additional member in the beautification committee, and Futaba tells him that she already has a lot of work to do. Masamune recalls that Aki was also a part of the same committee, so he volunteers to take part in the committee with the excuse that he hasn't become a member of any committee yet. He tells Futaba that he is doing it for her sake while he thinks about how he wants to get closer to Aki. They both come across each other at the committee's meetup, but she ignores him there. He cleans the windows and thinks that he's a worthless loser who can't even score a girl, but just then Futaba comes to him and starts apologizing for giving him so much work. She thinks that he is really admirable for helping people out without boasting a lot, and she then shyly asks him out for a movie. He realizes with shock that she is asking him out on a date, but he suddenly remembers the mission of his life and makes an excuse not to go. Futaba then runs away while he feels like he is over the moon, and suddenly Aki appears out of nowhere. She comments that he seems really popular, which makes him think that she might be jealous, and he tells her he would rather go out with her instead. She thanks him in return, which gets his hopes up, so he asks her for her email address and she agrees to give it to him, but she then reveals that her phone is broken. He decides to get her email the next week, but when the next week arrives, she never shows up at their meeting spot. She instead leaves behind a puzzle, and Masamune follows her letters throughout the school to finally end up at the same class. He looks out to see Aki displaying a sign that she rejects his offer, and she then smoothly walks away. Yoshino appears beside him and calls him naive. She comments that he would be able to exchange email addresses and go on dates if he can follow her plan. She then takes his phone and puts her own contact information on it to start off a revenge plan. Futaba announces to the class that if any of them fails in the upcoming test, the whole class will have to take 1-month-long supplementary classes. She comments to Masamune that it must be easy for him since he is such a theta, and he notices that Kojiro doesn't seem much worried about the tests. Kojiro then surprisingly reveals that he only got single digits in his midterms, so he is at least planning to get double digits, which makes them realize that he is definitely going to fail the upcoming tests. Masamune then decides to tutor Kojiro, who's a brainless chicken, and Futaba fantasizes about them being together as a gay couple. They meet up in the library to study, where Masamune tries to devise a plan while Kojiro thinks that it's hopeless to teach him. They come across Aki, who's teaching Yoshino, and she explains that she doesn't want the whole class to take supplementary lessons because of her. Kojiro reveals to the girls that Masamune is teaching him as well, and Aki makes fun of him since she doesn't think he is smart. She points out how he fell for her trick last time, and he asks her to place a bet on whether his group will score higher than her group or not. They decide that Aki will go on a date with him if he wins. However, if she wins, then he will have to plaster a nickname on himself till he graduates. She adds another condition that he will also have to buy her lunch forever, and he agrees to her condition. She then asks him not to come running to her when he loses and walks away while he thinks about how Yoshino will definitely help him out by deliberately failing. Later, Yoshino studies with Aki and reveals to her that Masamune is actually a smart guy despite his yapping mouth, who scored a perfect score in his transfer exam, so she should prepare for the test as well. Aki thinks about how she agreed to the bet because she thought he was just a narcissist guy, and Yoshino gives her some magazines regarding dating in case she loses to Masamune. Aki declares that she can never lose to Masamune and that Yoshino should focus on her own studying for now. Meanwhile, Masamune decides to call Yoshino to discuss the bet with her and keeps thinking about how he has never called a girl before like a pathetic loser. Yoshino then calls him to inform him that she can't help him out when he makes such random bets and that he is on his own for the bet. The next day, Kojiro gets crappy marks on his test once again, and he tells Masamune that he will make Aki give him a nickname as well in case they fail the bet. They both come across Aki and Yoshino, and Aki throws a bunch of questions at him to test him out, so he answers all of them. He then starts teaching Kojiro, knowing he's a failed cause, and even starts to study himself too, which is a rarity for him. His family notices that he is studying hard rather than working out all the time, and the test day arrives finally. On the test day, he and Kojiro give their best to tackle all the subjects, and before the final math test, he thinks that they both definitely have a chance at winning. He goes out to get Kojiro a drink and comes across Yoshino, who gives him coffee. He wonders whether she should be cheering him on, and she comments that it doesn't matter who wins. He and Kojiro have their lunch, and soon the math test begins. Just as the test starts, his stomach starts hurting, making him think that the other team played dirty tricks on him. He starts thinking that the girls are all his mortal enemies and that he will definitely make them pay. He does the test and then rushes to Aki's class to smack those cheeks, but her classmate tells him that she's absent due to fever. He realizes that he had already won the bet before the test even began, and just then Chinatsu sends him a message telling him that his mom's homemade lunch had made him sick instead. Later, he fails the math test, due to which he has to take supplementary classes on his own, and he comes across Aki, who also has to take the classes. Soon he then gets a call from Yoshino telling him to go on a date with Aki, and he reminds her that they both lost the bet, so she calls him a pig's foot who only knows how to give up. He goes to the meetup spot where he finds Aki looking like some third-rate wannabe cosplayer, and some creep approaches her to take her pictures. Masamune steps between them just in time, and the creep walks away while she calls all men disgusting. She teases him for not knowing the proper dress code for a date, and she explains that the couple is supposed to wear costumes on their first date to break the ice. Later, he He calls Yoshino to ask her how Aki ended up going out on a date with him, and Yoshino tells him to leave such delicate matters to her. She explains that she obeys all of Aki's orders, due to which Aki has no reason to distrust her when she tells her something, and she then shuts the call after calling him pig's foot. Masamune then joins Aki and admits that he didn't know the dress code for the first date. He teases her about going on their first date, and she whines to him that she had no choice since she heard that he was going to off himself from all stress due to the failed test. They both then go to a cinema which she rents out fully because she is a spoiled princess, and she makes him switch one seat away from her. They both watch a horror zombie movie together which scares the crap out of the cruel ice princess, and she reveals that Yoshino planned the whole date out for her. Later, they eat food in a restaurant where she guzzles up food like a starved gorilla, and he remembers how she didn't used to be such a starved gorilla in the past. He asks her whether she used to eat so much as a kid too, and she reveals that she started eating a lot after something awful happened in her past. Just then, a kid approaches their table and calls Aki's dress weird, so she starts to explain to the kid that people wear such dresses on their first date. Before she can make a scene, he drags her away and finally tells her that her dressing isn't normal. She immediately heads to a shop to change into normal clothes, and as she is changing her clothes, she screams out of embarrassment. Masamune rushes inside the changing room to see what is going on, only to get punched. He wakes up on her lap and recalls how she used to be very kind in his past, even though she was arrogant back then as well. Later, he walks home and Yoshino reveals to him over the phone that her main purpose is to make Aki humble. Late at night, Masamune reads a shoujo manga in which the female lead is running away, but the main dude stops her and tells her that he won't let her get away. They both hug each other, and the main lead comments that the rain seems like her tears to him. He notes down all the points to take inspiration for his revenge against Aki because he thinks that taking revenge is just like studying deeply for something. The next day, Yoshino apologizes to Aki for providing her false information about wearing a costume, and Masamune devises his next plan. After the class, he sits beside her during the supplementary class and even tells her that he can't stop looking at her, which makes her cringe. She tells him to face forward, but he keeps leering at her. After school, it starts to rain, and Aki thinks of borrowing an umbrella from Yoshino, but the cringe lord appears out of nowhere and gives her his umbrella to protect her from rain. He tells her that the rain reminds him of her tears and then runs away while laughing evilly. Later, Yoshino gives him a reality check and tells him that Aki thinks he is a disgusting creep, and she tells him to back off from Aki for the time being. She then advises him to distance himself from Aki for a little while as she explains how mixing his emotions is important to bag the girl. She heads back to the mansion where Aki scolds her for being late, and she notices that Aki has kept Masamune's umbrella. Later, he even goes through some mangas to check whether he should act cold towards Aki, and he thinks about how the plan can backfire on him if ends up ultimately hating him. The next day, he avoids greeting her even though she wants to give him back his umbrella, and he thinks about how all of his charm and progress may have gone down the gutter since he is avoiding her. He even avoids sitting beside her in the supplementary classes even though she once again tries to give him back his umbrella. Instead, he goes to the backside to sit there. She keeps noticing him as the class ends, and he leaves the school only to come across her and Yoshino on the way. He thinks that she's going to come talk to him, but she just turns away from him, and on Yoshino's warning, he doesn't go after her either. They both keep avoiding each other as the time passes, and he starts to worry that he is becoming a background character. One time, Aki ambushes him in the hall and declares that she has a few words for him. She seems really pissed off, so Masamune tries to avoid her as he turns back, and she throws his umbrella at him to stop him from running away. He tries to run away, but she blocks his path and keeps moving to stop him. He makes a break for it, but she grabs his tie and knocks him down. She asks him why he is acting like a snob, and he braces himself to become her punching bag, but instead that Sundra asks him why he is avoiding her. He becomes flustered to see her awkward side, but he reminds himself that it's his chance to turn things around, so he comments that he has been waiting for her to approach him. She realizes that he was intentionally acting so cocky, so she calls him awful for avoiding her intentionally and asks him what he even likes about her. He tries to come up with an answer that won't make her mad, but since he can't think of anything because of his pea brain, he tells her that he likes everything about her. He then blurts out in panic that he has something to do and runs away like a wimp, even though he knows he is wasting all of his previous effort. Later, he meets up with Yoshino and tells her about everything, so she calls him stupid and he begs her for some advice. The next day, he writes her a letter on Yoshino's advice, and he is about to place it in her locker when Aki spots her. He asks her to read the letter to get to know his feelings, but she takes it from him and throws it in the bin without looking at it, staying true to her title of being the cruel princess. She then tells him that she despises him and that she saw through his act a long time ago before running away. Yoshino appears behind him and he spills the details to her, so she scolds him for being so useless. He asks her what he should do, so she tells him to leave everything to her, and she scolds him once again because he cannot even tell Aki what he likes about her. She tells him to wait for her to give him a chance and walks away while Masamune thinks about his revenge and how he needs to grow some balls. He decides to step up his riz and to stop waiting for others to give him a chance. Meanwhile, Aki skips class, but because she is a wuss, she keeps wondering whether she will get in trouble. She recalls how she ran after Masamune after their last encounter to give back his umbrella, but she instead caught him yelling something about his master, due to which she stalked him. She then saw him run off to Yoshino the day before, where he and Yoshino discussed how he should approach Aki again. She wonders when he and Yoshino started talking with each other, and it pisses her off even more, due to which she begins stomping on his umbrella like a spoiled brat. Yoshino finds her at the park, so she tells her to go back to the class. Yoshino then tells her that Masamune has been in contact with her to seek advice from her, and that they have been in contact with each other through messages and calls. Aki tells her that she doesn't care whether she and Masamune are close, but Yoshino sees through her lies instantly and asks her whether she is sad. She replies that she would never be sad over a narcissistic guy like Masamune, and Yoshino cups her face as she asks her whether she is really telling the truth. Aki then starts yapping about how she has learned from her past that she can never trust a guy, but Yoshino assures her that Masamune only has eyes for her. She asks her again whether she likes Masamune, and she feels strangely embarrassed, but when she turns around, she finds that Yoshino has disappeared. She searches around for Yoshino while she recalls that she has always preferred hurting others before they can hurt her, so that the past doesn't repeat itself. She feels really nostalgic, and somehow she ends up walking on the road after the light has turned red. A vehicle rushes at her, but Masamune saves her before a car ice-sky her. He starts yelling at her for being so careless, making her realize that she may like him after all, but just then, the car's driver appears and asks them whether they're okay. The girl then notices Masamune and runs to hug him as she tells him that she has been longing to see him. The girl named Neko reveals that she has been wanting to see him for a long time and that her prayers must have gotten answered, which makes Masamune wonder who the girl is. Aki also gets shocked and asks whether he remembers her, but he doesn't recall her at all, and he even thinks that hot girls may approach hot guys like him randomly. He tells her that maybe she has got the wrong person, and just then Neko's assistant Shido reminds her that they're getting late. She tells Masamune that fate will make them meet again and that she will pray for their reunion before she takes her leave. Aki asks him who the girl was, and he tries explaining to her that he didn't know her. She tells him to kill himself after witnessing such treachery and storms on the busy road. Meanwhile, Shido reminds Neko that she belongs to the Fujinomiya family and to remember the promise she made to her father. The next day, Masamune plays on his life and gets a lot of lunch for Aki, whose appetite is no less than a cow's. He then approaches the gym because he is sure she must be eating lunch there like a certified loner and that she can never refuse food. When he approaches the gym storage, he gets attacked by Yoshino, who shoots airsoft bullets at him, and she tells him to leave on Aki's orders. Masamune realizes that Aki is still pretty pissed, and he narrates the whole tale from the day before to Yoshino. He tries explaining to her that he didn't know the girl, but she seems sus of him, and she comments that he still doesn't get it. She then runs away, and Masamune decides to man for the dozenth time without relying on Yoshino. He approaches the storage room spouting nonsense about saving her, but he thinks that she will definitely ignore him, so he thinks the better of it and leaves all the lunch at the door. He then walks away, and after a moment Aki takes away all the lunch sneakily. Later, he can't sleep the whole night, and the next day remains irritated at the whole situation. He keeps wondering who the mystery girl was, and even that she seemed like his type. The class begins, and much to his surprise, his class gets a new transfer student who happens to be Neko Fujinomiya. He keeps waiting for a chance to talk to her, but the girls surround her all day long, and he keeps waiting for the opportunity to mingle with her. The guys in his class also whine about not being able to talk with her, and Masamune declares that he will try to interact with her first. Finally mustering up enough courage, he approaches the girls, and just then they squeal out loud, which makes him think that he is disturbing their secret squeal fest. Futaba tells him that Neko just told them that she transferred schools because of him, and Neko reveals that she personally feels indebted to him, but he didn't know anything about it. She explains that 3 years ago, she was out collecting donations for Christmas in the cold winter when Masamune gave his coat to her and donated some money. He then told her to dress warmly because it seemed like she was going to fly away, which made her heart go all doki-doki. The girls fangirl over her story and discuss what will happen to Aki now, while Masamune realizes that the story is capped since 3 years ago he was still a fatty. Even the guys become convinced that he is a smooth dude who can snatch all the ladies, and he then takes her hand. He runs away with her so that they can talk in private, but on the way she falls down and blood starts to come out of her mouth. He starts freaking out, and she tells him not to worry. He then notices a ketchup packet on the ground and realizes she is conning him. She avoids talking about conning him and he asks her why she would lie to the others about their meetup, so she tells him that she wants the real event to remain a secret between them even if he cannot remember her. He apologizes to her as he explains that he likes someone else and he feels regret at losing a fan while she feels upset. She asks him whether he is dating the person he likes and he reveals that it's one-sided, so she asks him who it is. He takes her to the cruel princess's class and points out Aki while he thinks that she will definitely give up after seeing Aki's haughty looks, but to his surprise she directly barges inside the class and approaches Aki. She introduces herself and comments that she really feels envious that Masamune likes her, but just then a strong wind blows, revealing that she's not wearing any plot. She explains to Masamune that she really takes care of her health and that feeling tense by not wearing a plot is the secret to good health. Aki calls them annoying, which snaps him out, and she tells them to leave or else she will leave. She then storms out from the classroom and he tells her that he wants to talk to her, but she just gives him a cold look and walks out. Masamune follows her to defend his honor and yaps to her that Neko is definitely mistaking him for someone else and that he doesn't have anything to do with her. She doesn't believe him one bit and he grabs her hand, so she pulls it away and ends up smacking a teacher standing behind them. He finds them both skipping their class, so as their punishment, they have to clean the pool after class. They both arrive at the pool after class where Aki gives the teacher a nickname for being unreasonable. Masamune thinks that they should just hurriedly get the cleaning done while Aki walks over to a separate side of the pool as she tells him to stay away from her. He sprays some water at her and declares that his hand had slipped, so she starts to fill up her water bucket to take revenge. He notices that she seems lacking in some prospects and she in turn scolds him for staring at her. She is all tongue and no bark as she struggles to carry the bucket and tells him that she accidentally wants to spill some water on him, so he doesn't step forward to help her out. Aki then slips and ends up falling in the pool, which makes him think that she deserved it, but she starts to struggle in the water. He jumps in the water to save her, but since the pool is shallow, she stands up herself and starts to move out. She taunts him for jumping after her and they both begin to argue again. She then tells him to prove that he likes her by kissing her. Meanwhile, Yoshino waits for Aki outside in the sun and Neko shows up out of nowhere. She inquires about where Masamune is and Yoshino replies that she doesn't know, but Neko does not leave as she sits down beside her to wait for him to appear. Meanwhile, Masamune goes into a deep thought about what a kiss, and the shock leaves him speechless. She comments that he should be able to do that much if he really likes, but he continues to think about what a kiss really is, and he even imagines a kissing scene with Aki in which he brutally rejects her. He thinks about how he never planned for her to bring such a thing up so early in the game, and Aki starts yapping about how she knew he wasn't serious about her. She almost leaves the pool and he suddenly grabs her hand to stop her, but he starts panicking again after their faces come close to each other. He calms himself down by imagining that Aki is just a ham that he needs to take a juicy bite out of, and he leans in to kiss her. She freaks out at the last moment and she throws a beautiful uppercut which lands right on his chin. He gets angry and he asks her why she did that, but she starts acting shy out of nowhere. A few classmates suddenly arrive and Futaba asks them what they are doing in the pool. He explains the situation to them about how the teacher gave them a punishment to clean the pool, but it looked so nice that they decided to take a dip inside to cool off. He asks Futaba why she came to the pool and she reveals that she has swimming practice. He thinks about how those curves don't just magically appear, and Futaba tells them to enjoy themselves before leaving with the rest of the people. Aki steps out of the pool and she says that she will believe the fact that he really likes her because he was about to really kiss her. She tries to act tough by saying that she still does not care whether he likes her or not, and he thinks about how the ham should just stay quiet. Later, he thinks about the whole thing and he gets surprised by himself at how he was actually about to kiss her. Neko suddenly appears out of nowhere and she sits down beside him before offering him some green tea because he looked tired. He wonders why she is carrying hot green tea around in the middle of summer, and she explains that it's not nice to let the body cool down too much even in summers. She yaps non-stop about the different benefits of green tea, and he thinks about how he would rather drink her green tea than any other sweet juice. She does not know when to shut up as she starts listing the different supplements she uses, so he tells her that it's better to focus on exercise than to take supplements. He suddenly asks her why she likes him, thinking that she can't possibly come up with a rational answer, just like how he was unable to answer Aki, but she answers that she likes how he's so modest that he doesn't even know his charms. This surprises him and she tells him to be more confident in himself as she walks away to Shido. Yoshino decides to tackle Neko since she's too much of a distraction for Masamune's plan, so she stalks her after school time. She follows her to a neighborhood where Shido finds her loitering around and she starts acting like a weak girl in front of Shido. Neko tells Shido to spare her since she knows Yoshino personally, and Yoshino starts apologizing like a little girl for her mistake. She tells Yoshino to drop the act as it must be her job as Aki's attendant, and Yoshino returns to her serious character before asking her why she is interested in Masamune. She reveals that she is going after Masamune because he saved her in the past, which Yoshino doesn't believe. Sometime later, Masamune arrives home and finds Yoshino and Neko cooking food with his mother Kinyu. He tries to believe that he stepped into someone else's house, but reality hits him real quick, so he drags Yoshino to his room where she tells him that her mom found them all arguing in front of her house and dragged them in. He tells her that they need to leave his house as soon as possible, and he quickly hides Aki's photo, which was pinned to the wall. He even pushes out Neko when she comes into his room to stop her from seeing anything dangerous, and she reveals that Chinatsu has arrived, so Kinyu is waiting for them downstairs so they can all eat together. They all sit down to eat, and Chinatsu almost reveals the secret about how he used to be fat before Masamune quickly interrupts her before she can expose him. They all start eating and he takes the shrimp out of the coating to avoid the high-calorie stuff. Neko also starts eating her multivitamins, and Kinyu scolds them both for behaving like animals and not eating properly. On Chinatsu's suggestion, they all decide to set off fireworks after dinner. The girls even wear yukatas and Chinatsu begins lighting the fireworks. Yoshino tells Masamune that Chinatsu is nothing like him, and she reveals that she does not like fireworks because Aki once tried to send her to the moon using them. Masamune and Neko watch the fireworks together, and Kinyu suddenly brings out watermelons for all of them to enjoy. Chinatsu suggests that the girls compete on who can spit the watermelon seeds the farthest, and he and Neko watch the rest act like grade schoolers. Neko starts laughing, and Masamune thinks about how he would have tried to clap Neko if he didn't have his eyes set on his revenge against Aki. Afterwards, Neko changes into her school clothes in his room, and she tells the group that she really had a lot of fun before taking her leave with Shido. Masamune offers to walk Yoshino to her house, but she reminds him that she lives with Aki. He decides to walk her to the main road instead, from where she can take a taxi, and Yoshino warns him to not get rizzed by Neko. He reassures her that such a thing will not happen, and back at the house, Kinyu thinks to herself that it was nice to meet Neko once again. Meanwhile, Shido apologizes to her for not being able to come with her, and Neko tells her that it is alright because she was able to get some results. She looks at Aki's and Masamune's photo from when he was fat, which she stole from his room, and she thinks about how he looked just like she remembered him. The next day, Masamune tries to rizz up Aki by telling her how he likes her because she is too modest to see her own charms, but she maintains a straight face. She tells him that such a cheap line will not make her fall for him because she knows her worth, and he heads out with a defeated mind, where Yoshino tells him that it was very dumb to steal Neko's line. A few days later, the exams finally end, and Kojira asks Masamune about his plans for summer vacations. Aki suddenly barges into the classroom before he can say anything, and she slaps the invitation to a date on his desk, which he left on her chair. He thinks about how he will fully utilize the next 40 days of summer vacations to make her fall for him, and she reveals that she already has plans to spend her summer at her island villa. She invites Kojira to make Masamune jealous, but Kojira is a real brother, as he declares that he will not go unless Masamune comes with him. He starts smirking at her before telling her how he and Kojira are inseparable, and Neko suddenly barges in before saying that she will also go if Masamune is going. Futaba decides to board the wagon too, and she talks about how she wants to swim a lot. He asks her with the victorious look on his face about whether she will invite them all or if she will spend her summer as a loner. She decides to give up, so she invites them all to the island, and they all head out to the island villa as soon as summer vacations begin. While on the way to the island, Yoshino tells Masamune about how she tried to look into Neko, but she was unable to find any information about her, and also was not able to find a connection between the two of them which could explain her attachment to him. They wonder if her records were erased by someone deliberately, and he tells her not to worry because his only goal is to take revenge on Aki. He declares that he cannot be stopped even if another Neko pops up, but she warns him to take things seriously because she will reveal everything to Aki if he does not make any progress during this trip. Meanwhile, on the island, Aki's father's secretary, Yusaki, gets dumped on a call, and she starts going crazy, but she returns to normal when she learns that Aki's group has arrived. The group arrives outside the large villa, and Masamune worries about how Yoshino might really tell Aki everything if he fails this time. Yusaki steps out of the door, and she gets shocked when she notices that there is also a boy in the group that Aki brought with her. Kojira must be crying in a corner right now as he got totally seen as a woman, and Yusaki asks Aki about Masamune. Aki gets confused about what she should say, and Masamune decides to take the chance to progress things a bit. He thinks about how AI likes to look good in front of other girls, so he boldly declares that he is Aki's boyfriend, which shocks everyone. Aki smashes his face with a suitcase, and the two starts bickering while Yusaki remains speechless. She declares that she would have been very worried if Aki was still in her boys hating phase, and that she is very happy that Aki was finally able to like someone. She says that Aki should have told her beforehand, and she even comments about how her melons might finally start growing now that she has found a boy. Aki folds under the pressure and decides to take it along without correcting him. She lies about how she didn't tell her anything before because she did not feel like it was worth mentioning, and she quickly leaves the scene after grabbing Masamune's arm. She drags him into a room where she complains about how he did not need to say that, and he tells her that she should not have taken it along if she hated it so much. He teases her by suddenly acting like Yusaki has entered the room, which causes Aki to act normal for a moment, and she tells him that she will play his game only for as long as they are on the island. She warns him not to take it too far, but he thinks about how he is not planning to let it end like that. They head to the beach where he reveals his body in slow motion while thinking about how everybody will be drooling now, but no one pays any attention to him except the real brother, Kojiro. Neko starts yapping about how the sun might burn their skin before pushing her knockers into his arms and asking him to put sunblock on her. He starts panicking that Yusaki may get a wrong idea if she sees them, and he tries to leave, but she does not let him go. Aki separates them both using a karate chop, and she tells Neko to take her cheap tricks somewhere else because she is dating him. She tells Neko to stay away from Masamune because Yusaki might think of Masamune as a playboy if she sees her acting like this with him, and she reminds Neko that her family's reputation could also get harmed if such a thing spreads. Neko decides to withdraw for now, and Aki drags Masamune away to the side while Yusaki watches all this from a distance. She takes him to an area where there's no one and the atmosphere remains romantic until she orders him to bring her a meal. He reminds her to act like they are a couple, but she points out that they are alone now, so she will not waste her energy on a useless act. He goes to Yusaki, who packs him lunch for her, and she suggests that they should do a test of courage with others to have fun. Masamune realizes that this may be his chance to get closer to Aki, and Yusaki yells at him that he's just an insect who doesn't deserve Aki's love after he walks away. In the past, Yusaki gets dumped for the 100th time and suddenly hears Aki crying. Aki tells him that the boy she was playing with is gone, making her realize that Aki prefers hurting others than being hurt herself, which is a trait that she really admires and feels really proud when she saw Aki brutally rejecting boys even when she got older. At night, they all decide to go to an abandoned house where they draw lots to decide the turns, and Masamune gets chosen to go after Aki. He schemes to play the role of knight in shining armor and save Aki when she is too scared to move. He starts fantasizing about how he will save her, which will make her fall for him, and she will ask him to be her boyfriend forever. Yoshino goes in first as Yusaki wears a scary mask and plans to ambush Masamune to make him crap his pants, so Aki leaves him after getting disappointed. Her plan fails when Yoshino instead attacks her and begins chasing her with a saw. Aki, who sees Yusaki in her mask, running through the corridor, gets scared immediately and she falls down on her knees while screaming in fear. Masamune arrives just in time at her side, and Yusaki runs away after seeing Yoshino standing behind him. Yusaki then rushes outside the house and even scares Futaba and Kojiro on the way. She gets knocked out after hitting a pole and wakes up to realize that Masamune is carrying her. Masamune reveals that Yoshino was helping him scare the others and even confesses that he isn't actually dating Aki, which impresses her. As they head back, he asks her not to tell Aki that he revealed the truth to her, and she acts like she did not hear a thing. While on the way back from the island, Yoshino assures him that she won't spill the beans to Aki because he put in a good effort. A few days later, the muscle head exercises in his room like normal because he does not have a life, and he admires his body in the mirror like a self-obsessed creep. He gets a call which he assumes must be from Yoshino, but he gets surprised when he sees that Aki the Great is calling him. He starts panicking while thinking about what she will say, and he reluctantly picks up the call, but he gets yelled at for letting the phone ring for so long. After a while, he goes to meet up with Yoshino to tell her how Aki called him to tell him to come and take his bag from her, which he had forgotten on the island. He starts bragging about how his charms seem to be working because Aki would never call him like this before, and she warns him to be careful because they're in uncharted territory right now where a single slip-up could lead to death. He goes back home and learns that the photo of him and Aki has disappeared from his drawer. He starts panicking and he suddenly realizes that it must have been Neko who had entered his room to change clothes. The next day, he goes out to meet Aki to take back his bag and scolds him for forgetting his things at her villa. She reveals that she would have mailed the bag to her, but Yusaki was getting suspicious at her when she tried to mail it to him, and that's why she is delivering the bag herself. She warns him not to get too close to her because he will end up regretting it, and he recalls how she used to act the same way 8 years ago. He gets lost in his thoughts about the missing picture while Aki is talking to him, and he wonders why Neko has not said anything yet even though she took the picture. Aki gets pissed off when she realizes that he is not focusing on her, and she rushes out of the restaurant. He realizes that he just messed up, and he suddenly gets a call from Neko, who asks him if he will also be going to the pool with Futaba. He asks her if they can meet up right now, and she gladly agrees to it. She invites him to her house and he gets flustered when he realizes that this is his first time in a girl's house. He musters up his courage and steps inside her house, but he turns speechless when she asks him why he wanted to meet. He uses the lamest excuse that he was nearby and he asks to use the bathroom while she is making tea for him. He heads towards the bathroom and sneaks into Neko's room instead to look for the picture. He finds romantic and spicy manga all over the floor, so he sits down to read one. She suddenly appears beside him before whispering into his ears that the tea is ready, and she sits down next to him. She notices the romantic manga in his hand and she comments that she saw it in his room, which is why she decided to read it. He realizes that she admitted to looking around in his room and he directly asks her if she took a photo from his room. He immediately admits to the crime and she pulls it out of the sacred valley before saying that it was too cute so she could not help herself. He assumes that she must be talking about Aki and she rubs his melons on him before clarifying that she was talking about him. He gets flustered at how she found him cute and she grabs his hand, which makes the mood romantic. She tells him that she is jealous of Aki because he thinks so highly about her, and she grabs his face before kissing him. He enjoys the kiss for a moment before backing away and she starts pushing him down on the bed. He reminds her that they might get into trouble if Shido sees them, but she reveals that Shido won't be coming home for the day. He lays down flat while thinking about how he is uselessly chasing after Aki just because she rejected him 8 years ago, and he suddenly recalls her face. He asks Neko if she knows about how it feels to get bullied. She gets surprised and says no, so tells her that he knows about how it feels because he suffered from bullying before. He tells her that she does not like him too because he can tell her usual passion is gone, and he says that he does not want to go any further than this with someone who is not serious about her. He grabs the photo after getting up and she asks him if he is going to choose Aki over her. After a while, he sits down all depressed in the elevator and she thinks about how he said that it's his revenge against Aki. She wonders if what she is feeling is called a heartbreak and silently cries while lying down. The next day, they all gather up again to head to the water park on Futaba's suggestion, and they get shocked when they see Masamune in a half-dead condition. Kojiro wonders why Neko has not arrived yet, and Futaba reveals that she will not be coming because she is not feeling well. They all enjoy their time in the water park, but Masamune continues to stay serious throughout the day. They're about to leave when Shido appears out of nowhere and she grabs Masamune by the collar before asking him what he did to Neko. She reveals that Neko has gone missing and they're unable to find her. Futaba reveals that Neko sent her a text in the morning, and Shido explains that Neko was still home last night but had disappeared in the morning. Masamune points out that she could have just gone out to breathe some fresh air, and Shido reveals that she left without her seizure medications. He wonders if Neko was sick, and Shido gets shocked that they did not know even though they were so close to her. She points out that no healthy person eats so many medicines before every meal, and he wonders why she was deceiving them this whole time. Shido asks him to tell her what he did to her when he visited her apartment by himself, and he explains that he rejected her because he chose Aki over her. No one replies to his revelation, and Aki asks Shido if they can use the GPS to track Neko, so Shido explains that Neko left without her phone and wallet, so tracking is impossible. Masamune gets shocked that his confession just got ignored, and Aki points out that Neko could not have gone too far because she did not take any money with her. She suggests that they should all split up to look for her, and she asks Shido to take them all closer to the apartment so they can start looking from there. Aki tells the group to head off with Masamune if they don't want to get in the car, and she taunts him by saying that he already seems to know the way to her apartment. They all betray him by getting into the car, and the car heads off, leaving him behind. He wonders why Aki did not say anything to him, and he starts questioning if he really matters that little to her. The rest of the group arrives near the apartment and they start looking for her while Masamune decides to check the school. He encounters Aki, who also had the same idea, and he explains that Neko usually gets driven around, so this might be the only place she knows the way to. Aki explains that she has already looked at every building with a roof, and he points out that she really is trying her best to find her even though she hates her. She explains that she still does not like her and she just feels bad for her because she got rejected by him. She mentions how getting rejected by the person you like really hurts a lot, and he wonders why she rejected him if she knows how much it hurts to be rejected. He thinks about how ruthlessly she rejected him, which makes him angry, and Aki talks about how she does not want Neko to feel sad about it all alone. He suddenly asks her if she remembers the nickname Pig's Foot, and she gets shocked, but the moment gets interrupted when a paper airplane hits his head out of nowhere. He sees paper airplanes flying in the air, and he suddenly recalls that there was a scene just like this in the manga that Neko read. He starts running towards the rooftop while thinking about how the heroine in that manga made paper airplanes out of all the love letters she had written, and she flew them off the rooftop to say goodbye to her feelings. He arrives at the rooftop and Neko says that she knew he would be able to find her. He tells her not to copy the scene from the manga because she does not have the same health as the heroine, and she decides to prove him right by fainting in the next moment. He grabs her and tells Aki to call Shido so they can take her to the hospital. They arrive at the hospital and Shido tells them that she is fine now but wants to speak with Aki privately. Aki heads inside the room while Masamune wonders if he did the right thing by rejecting her. Aki comes out after a while and tells him to head inside because she is calling for him. He wonders what the two talked about and he heads inside the room where she starts talking about the past. She tells him about how everyone around her used to treat her like a sickly child and her grandfather suggested that she should get a surgery overseas, otherwise her condition will continue getting worse. With the surgery being a risky one, she told her grandfather that she wanted to fall in love with someone first before getting the surgery, and she reveals that she chose Masamune from a mountain of photos. He gets shocked that he was chosen like a lottery ticket and he questions how he ended up in the photos of her potential suitors. She reminds him that it's not uncommon for such things to happen between prestigious families, and he recalls how his mother flaunts him everywhere. She mentions how Yoshino is very smart but she cannot trace the thoughts of a sickly person, and he asks her how she feels now that she has tried falling in love with someone. She tells him that she found him very similar to her because they were both talking about love for the sake of their goal while the true reason was hidden from everyone. She mentions how her feelings failed to reach him and her lie also got exposed, but she still does not regret it because she was able to experience a lot of things. She asks him if he will continue to chase after his goal and end up like her. She declares that he will succeed, and she reveals that she will be heading off for the surgery after she regains her strength a little bit. Outside, Futaba reveals that she also liked Masamune, but Yoshino isn't surprised because she was easily able to tell, but Kojiro starts blushing like he was the one who got confessed to. She says that she is glad that she did not confess her feelings to him as she was able to hang out with them all because of it. She points out how Masamune likes Aki and she wonders how Aki feels about him. Masamune comes out of the room and Aki rushes to him to talk to him, but he walks right past everyone without saying a word. They all leave the hospital after a while and Shido reports this to Neko. She asks Neko if she really is fine with letting Masamune go just like that, and Neko replies that what Masamune said to her was true. She mentions how he also made her recall their first meeting when they met during a wedding when they were small. While on the way back, Masamune thinks about how he was not able to trust Neko because he knew she was hiding something from them, and he wonders if Aki will also look at him the same way one day. He starts getting frustrated after recalling her words, and he reminds himself of his mission to reject Aki after making her fall for him. At night, Aki recalls how Neko asked her to stop acting tough and to stop denying Masamune's love for her. She starts blushing while thinking about how he loves her and starts wondering if she should like him too. She suddenly recalls her childhood moments with Pig's Foot and she thinks about how that is the only thing that can be called love. She thinks about how he was so cute and she suddenly hears someone laughing nearby. Meanwhile, Kinyu starts freaking out about how Masamune is running away from home, so he explains that he is just heading out to train himself for a while to lose all the fat and to bring out his muscles along with his stud mentality so he can continue with his revenge. Back at Aki's mansion, a figure from the shadows asks Aki to guess who he is and a small chubby boy slowly appears from the shadows. Aki suddenly realizes that he looks very similar to Piggy and her face brightens up as she calls him Masamune. He tells her that she is right and he declares that he came back for her. All the servants are gathered and the fake Masamune requests Yoshino's father to let him see the master of the house. He reveals that he has brought a letter from his own grandfather and he asks Yoshino's father to take a look at it. Yoshino's father starts reading the letter in which the head of the Aki's family promises fake Masamune's grandfather that he will marry Aki with the 17th heir of their family on their 17th birthday. The fake Masamune introduces himself as the 17th heir of the Gasu family, named Gasu Kanetsugu, and Yoshino tries to urgently contact Masamune but he does not pick up. Meanwhile, unaware of his impending doom, Masamune trains himself in the mountains to regain his stud mentality and physique. A few days later, summer vacations finally end and the students return to school. A random guy from the baseball club confesses to Aki first thing in the morning and she humiliates him by writing on his shirt that his nipples are showing. Aki encounters her friends named Sonoka and Kikuni who praise her for rejecting the ace of the baseball club. Aki tells them that he was just a worthless musclehead and they start fangirling over her. They brag about how Aki will always reject men no matter how great they are, but another friend of theirs suddenly appears and she points out that Aki has been spending a lot of time with Masamune lately. Aki gets flustered and tries to deny it, but Mari brings up how they even spent the summer vacations together on her private island. Kikuni and Sonoka get shocked and Aki tries to object that Masamune just tagged along when she invited Kojiro. Mari reminds her that Kojiro is also a man and their talk suddenly gets interrupted when Kanetsugu pops out of nowhere. He asks Aki to take him to the private island sometime too, where she went with her friends and the three musketeers talk about how he will be the second guy to get rejected on the same day. Aki says that she would not mind taking him there while acting shy, and the three musketeers get shocked at what just happened. He says that he will consider it a promise from her, and she reminds him that they need to get his transfer papers finalized. The three musketeers remain speechless while Aki heads off to the teacher's office with Kanetsugu, and they wonder if Aki was just rejecting all the other pretty guys because she is into chubby people. Meanwhile, Masamune walks through the corridor with renewed confidence due to his mountain training, and he gets shocked when he sees that Neko also came to school. She reminds him that she is also a student, and he asks her about what happened with going overseas. She reveals how the doctors cut her open and took her parts out, due to which she was hospitalized for over a month. She explains that she just came back from overseas yesterday, and she asks him how much progress he has made with Aki during the month she was hospitalized. She whispers to himself that he was just training for a month, and she gets angry when she realizes that he has not made any progress. She looks out the window and tells him to be quick because someone else might take his place soon. He notices Aki walking with Kanetsugu, and he confidently talks about how a chubby can never defeat him. After classes end, he decides to give Aki a present that he brought from the countryside, so he rushes off to her classroom. He walks into the class, only to see Kanetsugu talking to Aki like they are extremely close, and he gets shocked. Kanetsugu introduces himself, so Masamune does the same, and Kanetsugu reveals that his nickname is also Masamune. He asks Aki not to call him Masamune at school because everyone will get confused, and Masamune asks him if they are related. Kanetsugu suddenly reveals that he is her soon-to-be husband, and Masamune's soul leaves the world for a second before he rushes out of the classroom. He drags Yoshino to the storage area to ask for an explanation, and she reveals that she tried to contact him multiple times but he was not reachable. Masamune questions if Kanetsugu is lying about the letter, and she reveals that she checked the signatures on the letter, which proved that it's true. She also drops another bomb on Masamune by revealing that he is staying at the mansion, and Masamune questions how Aki is just letting things happen. She reveals that Aki has been acting strange ever since he appeared, and she explains that she might have already fallen in love with Kanetsugu. After a while, Masamune starts stalking Kanetsugu, and he learns that he is also good at sports despite being short and fat. He also turns out to be extremely good at studies and easy to get along with, but what annoys Masamune the most is how he always sticks with Aki. He takes out his frustration at the children's rides in the park, and he wonders if Aki ate too much, which caused her brain to short-circuit. He refuses to accept it, and Yoshino apologizes to him for letting such a thing happen. Meanwhile, the three musketeers gather up to discuss how Aki has stopped spending any time with them ever since Kanetsugu appeared, and Kanetsugu suddenly appears out of nowhere. He asks to sit with them, and Kakuni even swings a kendo sword at him out of anger. He explains to them that they are mistaken about things, and he says that he needs to tell them something. The next day, Masamune reads a romance manga to improve his game, and Futaba tells the class to choose what their project will be for the upcoming festival. She suggests that they should perform the Snow White drama, with Kojiro being Snow White and Masamune as the prince, and the whole class agrees to do it despite Kojiro being against it. Sometime later, Masamune sees Aki alone, so he decides to take the chance, and he pins her against the wall just like how it was written in the romance manga. She asks him what he is trying to do this time, and he explains that he had no other choice but to do this so he can have a proper talk with her. She tells him that there is nothing to talk about, and she fools him by saying that his zip is open. He freaks out, and she manages to escape to Kanetsugu again. Masamune freaks out over how even the wall slam failed, and the three musketeers watch the whole scene from the side, which makes them furious over how Masamune tried a wall slam on their queen. They talk about how they will protect Aki with Kanetsugu's help, and they recall how Kanetsugu told them that he was engaged to Aki. He explained that he sees her as a beautiful goddess, and that he feels like he does not have the right to touch her. This impressed the three musketeers, and they decided that keeping Aki with Kanetsugu will be much better than letting her be with Masamune. After a while, it's revealed that both Masamune's Class A and Kanetsugu's Class B requested to perform Snow White, and Sonoka, being the vice president of the student council, uses her powers to reject Class A's request to perform Snow White. A student council member relays the news to Futaba, who refuses to accept such an unfair decision, and she heads off to Class A to convince them to back off. Mari, being Class A's representative, rejects Futaba's request, and Aki points out that a Snow White drama with a male Snow White is pointless. Futaba strikes back by saying that having a fat prince is also useless, and the two start bickering. Kanetsugu also arrives, and Masamune suggests that both classes should perform. He explains that they should hold a voting session after the performances to decide which class did it better, and the student council member also agrees to it. Masamune tells Kanetsugu that they should also hold a bet, and he explains that the winner gets to choose Aki as their dancing partner at the post-festival party. Kanetsugu agrees to the bet, and their competitive spirit rises with Aki on the line. The next day, preparations for the show are underway with Futaba acting like a veteran director and she roasts the hell out of Kojiro for not acting like a Snow White properly. She reminds him about how they will lose to Class A if he keeps acting like a wuss, and she even throws an ashtray at the ground to give off the impression of a proper director. Kojiro finally loses it and he rushes out of the gymnasium while crying about how he is not a girl. He arrives at a corridor and he complains about how girls don't see him as a man. He almost collides against Neko and she mentions how she is very excited to see their upcoming performance. She asks him why he is not at the practice, so he lies about how he just came out to take a break, and she walks away after telling him to return to practice soon. He thinks about how Neko is always smiling and she never says scary things, but above everything, she never treats him like a girl, which makes his heart skip a bit. Outside, Masamune looks around for his Snow White aka Kojiro and he tries to lure Kojiro out by yelling that he brought pudding for him. Kanetsugu suddenly appears and says that sweet things feel even better when you eat them after practice. Masamune points out that they make a person fat, and Kanetsugu mentions how Aki gets very happy when he gives her some sweets during the break. He calls her cute and reminds Masamune that it's the little things that count in the end. He taunts Masamune by saying that it's useless to do wall slams after reading some novels, and he states that such things have the opposite effect on girls in real life. Masamune gets shocked at how Kanetsugu is such a love guru, and Kanetsugu walks away after wishing him good luck for the competition. Masamune thinks about how he will win no matter what happens and that he will be the person to dance with Aki in the end, but he loses all of his aura points when he starts writing down Kanetsugu's words about how small things matter. The three musketeers watch the whole scene unfold from the window and declare that they will do whatever it takes to stop Masamune from winning. Mari tells them not to worry as everything will be fine if they just follow the plan. Sometime later, Aki and Kanetsugu walk back home and he tells her about how he met Masamune, but this ruins her mood. He starts apologizing to her like a purebred simp and she says that she was just being too sensitive. He mentions how she has been like that since they were small, and she says that it feels nice to talk to someone who knows everything about you. She sees a food truck, so she runs ahead to get some food, and he thinks about how he feels sorry for fooling her, but he needs to restore his family's financial situation. He recalls how at a wedding, Yusaki mistook him for the childhood Masamune that used to play with Aki and that helped Kanetsugu come up with a brilliant plan to make his family rich again by marrying Aki while acting as if he was the real Masamune. He thinks about how he can easily deal with Masamune and he just wishes that the real fatty from Aki's childhood does not return. Meanwhile, Masamune runs on a treadmill and ends up sneezing a bit, so Chinatsu complains to Kinyu that he might be sick. Kinyu starts freaking out and she rolls him up in a bundle to make sure that he stays warm. The next day, the school festival begins and all the students are the most excited for the battle between the two Snow Whites. The opening ceremony starts and Masamune starts sneezing, which makes him think about how climbing to the rooftop in plot to prove that he is not sick was a bad idea because it actually made him sick. He thinks about how he cannot rest because he would rather die than let Kanetsugu win, and he decides to rest until the show actually begins. Neko suddenly grabs him by the arm and she asks him to look around the school with her. She drags him along and he thinks about how he just wanted to rest a bit, but they arrive at the nurse's office. She makes him sit on the bed and she explains that she can easily tell when a person is sick because of how long she was sick for. She tells him to sleep for a while to rest properly, and she says that she would not mind even if he does not make it to the show because he will dance with Aki if he wins. She brushes it off as a joke and she tells him to do his best, but she mentions that she can be his dance partner even if he loses. She gets up to buy something for him and Kikuni watches from the end of the corridor as Neko leaves the room. Meanwhile, Aki and the girls get dressed up, but Aki points out that the chest of the costume is too loose, so Mari starts stuffing them with padding to make them look bigger. Kanetsugu unknowingly enters the room, so they hit him out and he complains about how he does not have a place to change his clothes. A person dressed as an old lady selling apples suddenly appears and tells him to follow her because she knows where he can change clothes, so he starts following her. Outside, Kojiro thinks about how Neko likes Masamune and he decides that he needs to act manlier to impress her. He sees her at a stall and goes up to her to offer his help, but his attempt at acting manlier quickly fails. They return to the nurse's office, but they find that Masamune has disappeared. They rush to Futaba to tell her about it while Masamune is stuck inside a storage room. Kikuni enters the room and she mocks him for being so light that she was able to carry him away from the nurse room. Meanwhile, Futaba and Neko fail to find Masamune and Kojiro reveals that he kept running into people from Class A while he was looking for Masamune. Mari calls Kikuni to check how things are going on her side, and after the call ends, Kikuni tells Masamune that he just needs to stay in this room until the show ends so Kanetsugu can dance with Aki. Meanwhile, Class A learns that Kanetsugu has also disappeared right before their show starts, and Aki questions if he is going to disappear at the most important point just like 8 years ago. Mari gets furious as she assumes that the other party had the same plan as her, and Yoshino recalls how she locked him inside the storage room. She tries to call Masamune, but he does not pick up, and she realizes that he has also been kidnapped. Kikuni suddenly starts yapping about how she lost to a cheater in kendo who later got rejected by Aki, which is why she admires Aki so much. Masamune points out that Kikuni is also cheating just like that guy, and her resolve starts wavering. He manages to guilt trip her into untying him, and she gets a call from Mari, who asks Masamune to release Kanetsugu if he wants to be released. He realizes that Yoshino must have done something, and he starts acting tough by cutting the call, which makes her furious. Aki declares that she is going to perform without a prince, and Kikuni assumes that Masamune cheated too by kidnapping Kanetsugu. She starts swinging at him and he jumps out of the window, so she follows him, but he fools her by hanging to the ledge. He rejoins Futaba and Kojira and learns that Aki has started her performance without a prince, so he rushes to the gymnasium. Masamune arrives at the gymnasium and is shocked to see how well they're performing the show, which makes him wonder how much they practiced. Mari also arrives and he asks her how they let the show play without a prince. Mari explains that there was no other guy who could fit in Kanetsugu's costume, and she reveals that it was Aki who decided that she didn't need a prince. She recalls how Aki gave a motivational speech to the whole cast before the show started, and Mari leaves after taking her anger out on Masamune. Masamune tries to find Yoshino so he can release Kanetsugu, but sees that Yoshino is already on stage, so he thinks about how he can help Aki, and he suddenly gets an idea. He tells Neko to do him a favor, and she does not agree at first, but he insists, so she agrees. He goes backstage and Mari tells him to leave if he came to laugh at them. He asks her to hear him out while the drama is coming to an end with Aki lying in a coffin. She thinks about how the class must not have found Kanetsugu and that Snow White will just have to die this time without a prince. She thinks that the current story is much more realistic because no prince actually arrives on time. She recalls how she waited for Piggy 2 once and thinks that she can never depend on a prince, but just then, Masamune arrives as the prince. Everyone is surprised to see him participating in Class A's play while he is struggling a lot due to the fever, and recalls how hard it was to convince Mari. She asked him why he would help them even though the two classes are competing with each other, and he explained that he did not want anyone's efforts to go to waste. He starts acting as the prince while hoping the rest of the actors play along, and the 7 dwarves manage to catch on. They take his play along and he starts walking towards Aki, but he trips due to fever. The audience gets shocked and the 7 dwarves manage to incorporate it into the script. They suddenly reveal that the prince has a chronic illness, and Kikuni tells Mari that Masamune is suffering from a very high fever. He explains that she thought he was just trying to ruin their performance, and Kikuni points out that he is in no condition to do that. He limps towards the coffin and almost falls back again, but one of the dwarves helps him stand. He looks back and realizes that it's Yoshino who is the only useful person in this whole anime. She pushes him towards the coffin and stumbles to it before getting down on one knee to give her a fake kiss. He picks her up and they all get shocked when he accidentally kisses her for real instead of pretending to do it, so she punches him. He goes flying and Yoshino takes the show along to give it a proper ending. The audience gives them a standing ovation and they all gather in a karaoke room after the show ends, where it's revealed that Class B's show was cancelled because Masamune went straight to the infirmary after the show thanks to his fever. Sonoka suggests they hold a karaoke battle to decide who the winner was for the show, and they all agree to it. They go one after another with high scores, and Neko sings a breakup song to show what she currently feels, which annoys Aki and Yoshino. Sonoka notices that Masamune looks tense and she deduces that he has probably never been to karaoke. He takes a bathroom break and Sonoka and Kikuni come out to prevent him from running away. They mock him by saying that he is the hottest guy around, so he probably knows how to sing, but Aki tells them to go back inside because it's unfair for the hosts to pressure a participant. They go back inside and Aki and Neko also sing a song together. Masamune is the last one remaining, so he begins singing, which leaves everyone half dead, but he is surprised that he burned 15 calories while singing. Afterwards, Masamune and Aki wait in the park for Yoshino to come back from her shopping, and she says that he should also have left with the rest of the people. He says that he will wait till Yoshino comes back because it's not safe to be alone at this time, and he reminds her that she never thanked him for helping her during the festival. She asks him what he wants her to do and he assumes that it's a trap, so he tells her to kiss him. He gets surprised when she agrees to do it and she leans in to kiss him while he starts sweating buckets, but she stuffs a roasted potato in his mouth at the last moment. She leaves and Yoshino tells him that he should have pushed ahead instead of waiting for Aki to do it, as he might have succeeded in his revenge that way. Masamune gets frustrated after realizing that he missed his chance, but doesn't lose hope and is sure to make Aki fall for him, but will his ever wish come true? Comment your thoughts below and make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more anime recaps.